welcome to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that can seem daunting, but it isn't actually. And I learned this because I needed to. What of course I'm talking about? I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons dice. When you think of Dungeons and Dragons, you think of nerdy stuff, you think of dragons, you think of Stranger Things, you think of Dritz, what's his name, or Critical Role, or Baldur's Gate. This is gonna help you no matter what sort of Dungeons and Dragons-esque thing you like. Even it might help you with other dice rolling games, but this is Emily's Dummies Guide to Understanding Dice. I'll probably have a better name for it at some point. Anyway, so let me introduce you to the players. We have, this is my dice set that I'm gonna be using today to explain to you guys what it is. It can seem very daunting because there are a lot of dice in this set, and there's a lot of weird shapes of dice. Now this is my first set that I got, plus an additional one that I use for percentile purposes. I'm not a dice goblin. I have 2 sets of dice total. I'm currently DMing a game, so, you know, everyone has their thing. Some people are dice goblins. Some people have an extraordinary amount of minis for someone who's only been playing for a couple months. I definitely don't. This may or may not contain minis. It's not like full, like overflowing, but there's a normal amount in there. Right, dice. So, first of all, we're going to be talking about the 1d4. 1d4 might be my favorite of the dice, aside from the d20, but I feel like, you know, that can sometimes be really cursed. So, this is the 1d4. I don't know how I'm gonna, I might show you just like a picture there. Basically, you roll it. This was the one I was most confused about when I started playing D&D. You roll it, and whichever one is on top is the one that you get. So I just rolled a 4. So that would be a 4. So the 1d4 is a very versatile dice. You can basically use it for small melee weapons. That would be your daggers, your clubs. I think darts would be like a more long-range weapon, but I feel like if you're doing long-range, you're gonna want to not be using darts, but, you know, totally up to you. I'm not judging. This can also be used, I've seen this be used in games as like a hand-to-hand fighting thing. So if you're just having 2 characters drop their weapon and giving a good old punch, then this is your friend. It's also very versatile in healing, so you want to stock up on your 1d4s because hopefully you get a good healing potion one day and you have to roll a bunch of these to heal yourselves from death. Yeah, I think that might be why I like 1d4s. I really like kind of like support characters. 1d4 can also be a modifier to a weapon. It can be like an extra attack modifier. So if you have an arrow that does its like regular piercing damage, you might also have something that gives it an additional 1d4 cold damage, or an additional 1d4 like poison that you can use to coat it to give it additional like acid damage or poison damage or whatever. So 1d4 can come in helpful for that. I've also seen this be used as using a bow or a long range weapon in melee. Instead of having your 1d6, you would roll 1d4 because it's an improvised weapon. If you are throwing a candlestick at someone and your DM is like, hey, I mean, I don't know what kind of damage that would do, I personally would say that's a 1d4. And if I was feeling nice, I would say plus 1d4 fire damage, but it really depends on the day. Because sometimes, you know, your players befriend goblins instead of killing them. The next couple dice are more weapon type, damage type dice. They can also be modifiers like extra fire, cold, poison, acid, blah 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 blah, extra damage depending on what weapon you're using. So the next dice that we're going to talk about is the 1d6. See, dice are fun. Dice are so easy and cool. Dice are not scary. So we've got the 1d6. This is just like your average normal person dice. This is your normie dice. It is just a 6-sided dice. There's not a lot to it. The 1d6 is going to be your short sword. It's going to be your mace. It's going to be your quarterstaff. It's going to be your short bow. This might also be a dice that you roll to see if you're like, if you have certain wands. You might roll a 1d6 plus 1 to see how many charges it like gains up overnight. This will also be what you roll to get your character stats, which I might do another video on because that was really scary for me. A good example of this being used as an additional effect on a weapon is this man right here. I don't know if you can see him. In Critical Role, for example, Vax has a flame tongue dagger, and that dagger does 1d something piercing damage, but it does an additional 1d6 fire damage. So there's that for you guys. A little, if you like, in the know. Fun fact about that, I actually, when I got it, did not know anything about Critical Role. I just thought it looked like Cassian from A Court of Thorns and Roses. And then here I am years later being like, hey, wait a minute, that's my guy. That's my favorite boy. So thank you, Liam O'Brien, for making Vax'ildan. The next dice is going to be the 1d8. This is your pyramid, your double pyramid diamond-y looking one. I don't know if I'm going to put photos here or I'm going to do that. I don't know if you can see that. That's the 1d8. This is going to be your longsword, your great club, and your crossbow. I'm sure there's others. 1d6. 1d6. Or this is a 1d8. Sorry, I've been saying 1d6. 1d8, not 1d6. Well, sorry, guys. I'm in a silly, goofy mood tonight. This will be additional attack bonus, additional spell modifier. It's pretty much has the same stuff that you would use a 1d6 or a 1d10 for, just maybe different weapon types, as well as a much better modifier than the 1d6, but you would not roll stats with that unless you wanted to do it incorrectly. Alright, then we're getting to the 1d10. Where's my 1d10? Okay, this one is the 1d10. Can you imagine if I just showed the wrong one? Me showing a d20. This is a 1d6 and no, this is a 1d10. I'd say counting it to make sure I'm right. This is the 1d10, and it's really cutesy. It's an interesting looking one. It kind of looks like a circus thing, maybe. This will be a more heavier weapon that'll deal more damage technically, but is a heavier weapon to use, so it depends on your character and their strengths and all that stuff and whatnot. This will be your glaive, your halberd, your pike, your heavy crossbow, and it's the same shape as your percentile dice, which is my next point that I'm going to talk about. You'll see in dice sets, you'll see one that looks like this. It's also sometimes called the D100, and it's basically a D10 but with 2 numbers on it per face. For example, 0008, or not 08, 8020, and it basically, you would roll this with a d10, and you would come up with a percentage number. So if I have these two, this is kind of what I like to use this one as like my percentile d10, and then this one has like my actual d10. So if I rolled this, I rolled a 60 and a 4, so that'd be 64%. So your DM can come up with any sort of nonsense to use the percentile dice. Sometimes they're using it behind your back without you even knowing. But that one's a really cool one to use because it's unexpected, and it kind of gives you a different way of looking at things, I would say. For example, you are you're a bard. I don't know where I'm going with this. You're a bard and you want to sing a song and you want people to remember the song, and they have like a 50-50 chance. If you roll over 50%, then like it's just like an additional thing that you can do to make things interesting and change things up a little bit. Then we've got the 1d12. This is something. This is some sort of shape. It has a 12 on it. That is the easiest way to tell you which one it is, but it's got a lot of faces. It's not as like triangular as the other ones. This one's like a decahedron. That sounds like 12, right? Decahedron. I don't know. This will be your two-handed martial weapons, like a lance. And I actually couldn't think of any. I like a great sword, maybe. A great sword might do 1d12, or like a scythe. I feel like a scythe would do 1d12 because these are like two-handed heavy weapons. They're kind of the only weapon that you can have without having to like... Now, there's a lot of question about if you should use a 1d12 or a 2d6, which is better. Because technically, if you look at it on a very, very surface level, it would be the same thing. Rolling this twice, rolling this once. Which one's better? The bigger dice. if your DM gives you the decision, this is a secret. If your DM gives you the decision, always choose the bigger dice because you have a higher chance of rolling your max like number or the max like attack that you can with just the single dice. I roll this once, I roll a 12, that is a 1 in 12 chance of rolling a 12. I roll this and twice and I want to get a like my max attack, it is a 1 in 36 chance of rolling 2 6s, which does the same amount at a higher like fail rate. So always go with the higher dice. That can be the same, that's the same for like a 1d4 versus like a 2d4 versus like a 1d8. Always do the 1d8 if you're given the choice. If you're not, then it's like whatever, the DM's always right. No, I'm kidding. Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we forget things and then we have to be reminded of them embarrassingly. Like names a lot. And then we have the dice, the ultimate weapon dice. This is your D20. This is your like poster boy D&D dice. I want to get a couple more D20s just because I like them a lot. I think honestly like a D20 and a D4 are probably my favorite dice, which like it doesn't really make that much. Although D6, while I was like researching kind of like the stuff that you can roll stuff for, I was like D6 low key like. Anyway, I love the D20. The D20 is the most versatile dice in the whole game. There's definitely probably some sort of like legendary weapon that you can roll a 1d20, but like that's excessive, guys. I don't know if I'm lying about that or not. Who knows? As a general rule, a D20 is for all of the actions that you take in the game, while the other dice are more damage based. So your D20 is going to be your attack roll, it's going to be your saving throw, and it's going to be your skill check. So if I am rolling to see if I hit this goblin and his AC, which is armor class, which I might also cover in another video because the entire D&D page can be very confusing and very overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing, like me most of the time. So basically you would see first to see if you hit. So if a character or a creature or something has an AC of 13, you roll this. I rolled a 17, and a 17 would be like a success. So then I would roll my other dice to see what the damage was, depending on what weapon I declared that I was using to hit said goblin with. Poor goblins. I had a goblin in my game, and he has a name that I forgot, and I did not want him to survive, and now he has. And now he has to be a recurring character because my players love him. What's his name? I have it in my notebook. 1 second. I can't believe I forgot his name. This is like a parent forgetting their child's name. No, that's one of my players' names. Iskander. Iskander is my favorite NPC currently. I have more NPCs that I really haven't like introduced or done a lot with, but Iskander, he's a cleric. He's a cleric paladin. He's a paladin cleric. Cleric. They're very similar. I haven't decided yet. He hasn't fought anyone yet. But I love him. I think he's so funny. I like his voice because it's mine. No, I'm kidding. Olib! Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot Olib. Christina's gonna get so mad at me. This is Olib. Ignore the 6 in the corner. Yeah, that's Olib. This is also my D&D journal, which I think is really cutesy and pink and adorable. But yeah, what was I even talking about? Olib? Oh yeah, Olib the Goblin. He's a bone of contention between me and my players, but it's okay because I love them. Then we've got your skill checks. You've got your roll for Arcana check, and then you roll it, and it's like, oh, it's a 6 plus 3 because I'm a warlock and I'm awesome. Then that would be that, and then sometimes your enemy will attack you with a spell or something. So if their spell hits or it gets you, you can roll a saving throw to half your damage or whatever it is, depending on whatever the saving throw for that spell is. That is the dice of Dungeons and Dragons. I hope you took something away from this video. Hopefully all of these gazillion different dice are a little bit less nerve-wracking to you. So I love talking about D&D. I think it would be really fun to kind of do like a how to fill out a D&D character form, because I honestly do it all the time, even though I don't really need to when I'm just making NPCs. I just think it's really fun. So maybe we'll do something like that. Maybe I'll walk you through one of the characters that I've built, and we'll build an actual like good character sheet together, which would be really cool. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe and comment and do all that lovely stuff. I love making these and I want to be posting more often, so please motivate me. I really appreciate everybody who has recently joined the channel. My PC build video did really good, so thank you so much everybody for checking that out. And hopefully you stick around and comment any Dungeons and Dragons advice for newbies, because while I am DMing, which is crazy for someone who's only been playing for like 6 months, it's really fun. And if you have any sort of like tips or tricks or anything like that, leave a comment below and I would love to see them and maybe use them one day to torture my players. I mean, just be normal or whatever. Anyway, thank you all so much and I will see you next time. Bye!